Welcome to another exciting episode of the You Know Show. We are two geeks who talk about everything. I am Aaron, and I'm joined, as always, by my cousin Landon.
Good day.
Howdy do, sir. You took the fam on a fun trip for Thanksgiving week. How was that?
It was awesome. Did a little Disney, did a little Universal, and I have to tell you, I did ride the Guardians of the Galaxy ride at Epcot.
Now, this is the new one, right? This is this one of those where you like have to shoot at things while you're riding the ride?
No. That's
like the Buzz Lightyear thing.
No, that's Men in Black. But no, it's or Buzz Lightyear, yeah. No. This is like a whole new realm. It's a whole different thing. Do you know how on like roller coasters they'll have like there'll be like a story to the ride, but then you like do the ride. Right. So you might stop in a room and you might have like a little area where you have a cinematography or something like that going on. And then you like ride a roller coaster and you go around and do stuff and then you're back at it. You know, this is not that at all. Like this is a roller coaster where while you're riding it, your vehicle turns. So you have spatial, like you're focused on the screen while you're moving, like you're watching a movie. And you're in the movie and it's got the digital screens. You're going through stuff and you're swirling around and you're going up and down and all this stuff while the it's like a movie and you're in it. I've never ridden anything like it in my life. There were family members who were a little queasy afterwards because the body is not meant to do these things. But I mean, we
weren't meant to be part of the movie.
Out of this world. Crazy.
Well,
and we were very fortunate because we had to get into a virtual queue and do that jazz. But
if virtual queue, does that mean you had to like have the goggles on and you were like you weren't really standing in line, you were just pretending to stand in line?
The Matrix has you, Aaron. Yeah, no. I had to like get up and then like at 6:45 in the morning, and then when 7 o'clock hit, I had to press the button to reserve it, because within 5 minutes, all of them were gone. Wow. So I was one of the ones who got in and got in the queue and we were able to ride the ride. So, so good.
Now, because of that, is that the only ride you got to ride that day?
We waited 18
This is our
hours.
sacrifice.
Yeah. No. There was a lot of people who were saying like rumors, like you have to wait 7 hours or something. We waited maybe an hour. I mean, because we were in the queue. So
that's no worse than any typical new roller coaster.
But my favorite roller coaster, Hagrid's at Universal is probably my favorite, but besides that, the Gringotts, Escape from Gringotts is one too, because you're on kind of a roller coaster, but then you go into a room, then you watch something, and then you move on to another room and you watch something, and those kind of things happen. But this was a combination of both. It's phenomenal.
So you keep going to these fancy Florida theme parks. I've just been to King's Dominion, where a roller coaster is just a roller coaster. I mean, there's no story. You get on one named after a snake, and like it's just like, hey, this went a long way and did a loop. Woo! Thank you for riding Anaconda. Enjoy the rest of your day at King's Dominion.
Yeah, but we're not here to talk about roller coasters. We're talking about some really awesome things today.
No, we're not. We're talking about old stuff.
Old stuff is awesome.
Newer is always better. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it was back then, because this
was the new thing.
Was the new thing. Yeah.
All right. So our topic of discussion this week is once again, we're steering away from movies or television. For those of you listeners or viewers who only show up here because you're interested in our takes on the movies or the television, don't worry. I promise the rest of the year, at least on this calendar, will be full of movies and TV thoughts. But this week, we are still in the 90s and we're still with the nostalgia. We're diving into our personal memories of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Because now you're playing with power. superpower.
Oh my gosh. I loved when this system came out. Was it 93?
The SNES was released to North American audiences in August of 1991.
Oh, 91. Gotcha.
It launched with 5 games: Super Mario World, F-Zero, Pilot Wings, which I never played, Sim City, and Gradius 3.
Gradius.
Hit the market at $199, which in 2022 dollars is roughly $400.
That was a lot. That was a lot.
So did you get this right away? Like as soon as it came out?
Yep.
I'm not sure how long I had to wait. Like I know I had to save up, or I had to wait for Christmas or some big deal. But I remember being at that age where, like, anytime I went to a store with an electronics section, I would make a beeline for the electronics section.
Oh yeah.
So that I could play the display model.
Just the display model, yeah.
Like, and it's always Super Mario World, and it's always like you're starting from the beginning. So before I got my hands on an SNES, like I had the first world of Super Mario World down.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's something else. I remember when it came out too. I mean, the Super Mario World was just completely different than anything we'd ever seen before. The ability to move around, spatially, to do the jumps, and to have that free world where you could just go anywhere. You could go 360, you could hop around. I mean, that was just crazy.
Yeah. I remember before the Super Nintendo came out, the hype for this thing had been building for like years. Like, did you have a subscription to Nintendo Power?
Oh yeah. Nintendo Power.
So yeah,
favorite magazine ever.
Nintendo Power magazine. All right, like the good people behind the scenes there, they would leak test images and drop clues about what the next generation console was going to be like as they were developing it in Japan. And these images like would become clearer and more official. And then it was like amazing to see the difference between, all right, this is what your 16-bit video game screen is going to look like compared to your old 8-bit NES. And it's like, it was just so beautiful.
Well, there was so much focus back then. I mean, on these stats, on 8-bit, 16-bit, 32, 64, that this whole time and era was all about bit, you know, and just that was the thing.
You don't hear about like bits anymore, because now it's like, who cares? Bits aren't even a thing. It's like, are you playing on Blu-ray disc? Is that what's happening? Or are you 4K HD?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all that matters.
No.
Now, if you're going back and like 8-bit and 16-bit is like the nostalgic thing, and you'll see new games released in those styles, but it's to strike that nostalgic nerve. Like, you know, on PC you can go on Steam and find all kinds of like old school style games, but they're brand new, and they're utilizing new technology, but they're creating them in a way like even like Capcom came out with new new editions of like Mega Man, like Mega Man 9, Mega Man 10 came out, and they made them in the 8-bit style.
Yeah.
So that looking
crazy.
back at all that, it's so nostalgic, and it's just fun to play those old games like that.
So much fun. I mean, I think like my world was blown by Mario World. I actually had like a Christmas meltdown Christmas morning, because this was the time when you had to have a certain compatibility with your TV to use these devices. Like you had, you know, and I didn't have that. And I got it in the morning, and I was just like, it does not connect. I don't know what to do. You know, and when will the stores open? Can we leave now? Well, son, we're having breakfast Christmas morning. You know, it's just like, yes, but when can we leave? You know, I was so desperate.
I need the adapter now.
I need the adapter. Oh,
because so these when this came out, the connection was like the AV cable, right, where you had the 3-prong, the white, yellow, and red.
Yeah.
And your TV probably only took the coax cable.
Yeah, the coax.
Yeah.
And so you had to have the adapter for that. And oh my gosh, that was quite the moment. But the other side of it too is at this age, we're talking when the Nintendo came out, and I'm under 10, because this came out when I was 10. At this point, I'm already an expert on how to work the back of a TV, because I mean all of us were, right?
Sure.
Because you had to know. I mean, by this time with the regular Nintendo system, you were already working out how to get the system to work, blowing on the strip of the cartridge, pushing up and down 3 times, putting it right to the edge, and then pushing it down so it'll actually turn on. There
That
was like,
sounds more like voodoo than electronics.
but we had to become, so tech savvy to get this to work. Oh my gosh.
Not sure I would call blowing on the game tech savvy.
Shut your hole, Aaron. We were tech savvy. We
Now,
did what had to be done.
I'll give you tech savvy in that we had to go behind the TV and because this is where everything was hooked up. You had I remember mine. I had this like monstrosity of a television. Like I think it was a 20-inch TV in my room that had the 2 dials on it. The VHF and the UHF had the rabbit ears, and it was cable accessible. I had the coax cable that could go into the back of it, but I didn't actually have cable in my room. The only thing that plugged into it was like I had the box that you had to flip the switch between TV and video game.
Yeah.
And that way, like you had to make sure the TV's on channel 3.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
If the TV's on channel 3 and you got your Nintendo plugged in, you'd push that little slider button up to video game and turn the thing on, and bam, there it goes. And if everything was not where it was supposed to be, Dad.
Oh yeah.
Dad. Why isn't the Nintendo working?
Oh, I still remember the feel of screwing on and unscrewing the coaxial cable. I can still feel it on my fingertips.
Where it like stripped your fingerprints off. Yeah.
Yes.
Because your dad, when he installed it, put it on there too tight. Probably used pliers or some crazy tool like that. And we're just sitting there trying to peel away with our little fingers.
I would have taken my teeth to it. Could I have reached it?
Right.
We were so in.
My face won't go this close.
Yeah. Oh man. I think again, like I said, Super Mario World was a game changer. But just the ability to use the controller with the extra buttons. That was a new thing because it added it had 4 buttons on the right side at this point. And that was just
instead of just the AB like we had with the NES, you had XY, and then up at the top you had LR. This was all very new,
which is now standard practice to have R1, R2.
You have several buttons on the top, on the back, on the sides. They're just all over the place. There's too many buttons these days. You kids, I don't know how you do it.
Now, of course, this is I would say more than Mario World. Mario 64 is probably the most game-changing Mario that I've ever seen. But at this point, I think the thing about the Mario World that got me and how you could move around between the backwards and the you'd have that separate area where you could go behind. You also had Yoshi, you had you had his little tongue you could jump on or you could jump on his back and do his tongue thing and all that. That was all so cool. It was so new. Mario 3 was amazing, but this just took it to a new level, Yeah. I loved all of this.
I'm pretty sure that Yoshi was in the plans from the beginning for Mario. I think when they created Super Mario Brothers, they wanted him to have a rideable pet kind of deal, but they were like technology wasn't there. Like they couldn't do it with what they had in '85.
Help me out here, but with when we were, it was this one where you could go backwards, farther back in the game. Like you didn't have to just remember how with Mario, if you advanced, you could never go back.
Yeah. So
but in this one, you could go back, right? I'm thinking that right?
Yeah, you could so Super Mario 1 and then the Lost Levels, or what was Super Mario 2 in Japan, those are the only Mario games where you could not backtrack.
Okay, so you could backtrack
So
in
in what we
three.
had is Super Mario 2, what we had is 3 Super Mario World. They all, you could go back, forward. Certain levels you go up, down.
Okay.
And then with Super Mario World, of course, it got to the point where you could do all the things. Just not
Yeah.
3D.
That's
As long as you're still in a 2D world, but with much better graphics.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it was like just an awesome, excellent next progression of the game. And let's see. So Mario 3's big aspect was using the leaf to turn into the raccoon. But
Right.
this was the Super Mario with the one with the cape, right?
Yeah. So you get the feather and you get the
The
yellow cape.
feather. That's what it was.
And so the flying mechanics were a little different. And I remember the first time I played it, or the first time I was able to uh play around with the flying mechanics. It was a little hard to master because you've got to time it right. You know, if you want to pick up speed, you've got to push forward, but if you push forward for too long, you're going to crash into the ground. So then you got to hit back so that you're catching more wind in the cape.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was made more sense as far as Mario flying than having a raccoon tail.
Yeah.
But yeah, the flying mechanics were difficult. Well, I thought were difficult to pick up at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's fairly simple.
Do you have a favorite board or
From Super
section?
Mario World.
Anything you remember? Because I've got one.
Um, I really like all of those super hard levels on the Star Road, or not the Star Road, but beyond the Star Road.
Yeah.
Where it's like you found these special levels, and they're all like words. They're all titled like gnarly, radical, tubular, things like that. I think there's 8 of them.
Yeah.
And those were the levels that they had hidden away, that that you had to find specific a lot of the levels on the game had multiple exits.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
so to get there, to get to this special stage, you had to find all those special exits and get to this point where, again, these 8 levels were supposed to be the hardest ones in the game.
Yeah.
And they really were. They were so
They
hard.
really were.
But it was so much fun
I
to
remember
find
too,
them
they were-
and to work through them and figure out how to get from point A to point B. And like, it was such an accomplishment to
my
finish
gosh.
it.
Mine was the ghost one where you had the boo, and you had the huge boo that you had to get past because you had to walk carefully, and then they'd turn, and if you turned away, they'd come at you, right?
Yeah.
That was a really cool board for me. All right. So I gotta ask, I mean, do you remember, just going back to Super Nintendo overall, do you remember the video, the Paul Rudd video?
Oh yeah. I've seen that. Like, they now that Paul
Ant-Man.
Rudd is who he is, yeah, they've shown that video just all over the place, because it's like, hey, remember when Paul Rudd was in a Super Nintendo commercial? Yeah, he's just one of those guys.
The Mortal Kombat commercials.
Those were
Mortal Kombat.
I mean, they got the job done. So this is where we get into the console wars. During the 8-bit era, it really seemed like Nintendo basically ruled the roost. Nobody could really compete with them. I mean, Sega had the Master System, but that didn't really take off in the US like the Genesis later would. And really, Sega owes all, I would say, I mean, from where I sit, owes all of the Genesis success, at least initially, to the creation of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, for sure.
If it hadn't been for Sonic hitting the market, when this happened, Sega finally has their flagship character like Nintendo had Mario. And so it's like, this is where we're going to show off the capabilities of the Genesis and how fast it is, how extreme it is. And they really had a great like run and with their, especially with their advertising. I remember some of their commercials were like, what Genesis does, what Nintendo don't.
Nintendo don't.
So
Well,
like,
you gotta admit, the Sonic the Hedgehog thing, it was so fast, and you're just going across the screen, and it's just chaos. And they have you rolling in such a smooth, it's like liquid. You know what I mean? You're moving so fluidly.
yeah.
You know, and that was just appealing in a way that we really hadn't seen. I mean, although F-Zero and Mario Kart and all that, you have movement and stuff, but nothing like that. That was a whole different level.
Yeah. So for a long time you had this rivalry going. It's like who's gonna win this generation of the console wars. Like early on, it was a safe bet that Genesis was pulling ahead. They had, like we said, that ad campaign. It painted Nintendo in a very negative kind of old school light. It's like Nintendo's the system that your grandparents play. This is what your little sister plays because it's safe. But Genesis, if you want to be extreme, this is where you play, because you know what? We've got Mortal Kombat and we can actually show you the blood and the guts from Mortal Kombat. Whereas Nintendo is just when Nintendo comes out with Mortal Kombat for the SNES, all it is showing like water instead of blood. Like they changed the color of it.
They're like, yeah, we can't do that.
Like it's like, here we go. Here's arguably the most popular arcade game of all time. It's violent and it's graphic, and it has given good Christian housewives nightmares based on its content alone. So when it's time to port the game to the home console, who wins? Genesis.
It's
of
true.
Course.
Yeah, no, it's true. Now talking about some games, game changers, if you will. Super Mario Kart. Oh my gosh.
Great
that
game.
was that led the way.
Which has gone on to spawn like one of the greatest video game franchises of all time.
Oh my gosh. And I, think about college, and by the time we're in college playing Mario Kart and all of that, and it just kept going and going and going, even to now. You got Mario Kart 8, which on the Switch, which is a great game. A lot of fun, and they kept expanding your abilities and you get really good at it. But now if you played Mario Kart now, going back on it, because you played all the other, it's maddening. I mean,
it's a struggle to play the original Super Mario Kart these days.
I tried it on an emulator and I was like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, of course I cut my teeth on the original Super Mario Kart, but it was when the GameCube came out, and Double Dash was the version of Mario Kart that came out for the GameCube. That was the one that I got used to, got really good at. So
remember Double Dash.
Trying to go back. Yeah, I thought it was really neat because you got to have two characters on one car and you work together.
Cool.
But it was personally, that's my favorite, looking back at all the Mario Karts. But anyway, this original one was I don't know, it was so strange because you've got the split screen where your top of the screen is what you're watching as you're driving, but then at the bottom of the screen you can see the entire
the map.
The map, the entire course, and you can see where everybody is on the track. But at the same time, when you're watching you up on the screen, it's their first foray, really, I think, into 3D.
Yeah, where you're behind your character and you're seeing that. I think that, they didn't have anything like drifting back then, and you couldn't hold. I don't think you could hold items behind you.
No,
I think you could just use them, and
but you could hop.
Yeah, you could hop. That was another thing too.
That was
there were puddles. Remember the puddles? And
there were puddles. There were they had the mud tracks,
and they had the banana peel. That was there.
The banana peel was the stupid
coin. The coin that they always still have. And I don't know why you would have the coin. I hate the coin still to this day.
Well, the coins you have to have if like you fall
I
off
know
the
it's
track.
endurance. I know.
You
I
have
still
to
hate it.
pay Lakitu to fish you out of the water if you fall in too deep, or if you fall
Have you
off the Rainbow Road.
partaken into the storyline? I mean, of this game where you have to pay whatever his name is,
No, you
the
do.
ferryman. Just saying, it's just
So there's no story. It's just a character from the rest of the Super Mario games.
nobody likes the coin. So what about? Let me
Everyone
ask you
likes
this.
coins.
Well, let me ask you this. What did you think? I am saving the thing I love the most to talk. There's two things I really love. But what did you think about when Star Fox came out and you got to fly?
You know, that one never really did it for me.
Oh, really?
Oh gosh, no. And I don't know if it was because I'm comparing this boxy, pixelated, like I get, you know, how it broke ground with the 3D imagery and everything, and the FX chip or whatever. But so I'm not discounting that at all. But you know, at the time, I'm still impressed by what we're getting from the graphics. From the 16-bit system. And and here we are, you know, you're showing me almost like geometric vector kind of stuff, and I'm
I know
like,
it's almost like a DOS computer.
yeah,
It's true. I remember playing Chuck Yeager's Flight Simulator on the DOS, and that was kind of like that a little bit. Now this game was more advanced because, you know, I mean, obviously you could shoot and you did have those shapes and stuff. No question, Star Fox 64 ended up being a much better game, obviously, for many reasons. The battle mode alone, but you know, I mean, it was kind of cool just to have the ability to fly. What about Punch Out? The Super Punch Out.
Punch Out. That was a great game.
I enjoyed it. I played that a lot.
Did you ever beat it?
I don't know that I did. Who was the big bad guy?
I can't remember. So the last two, they were twin brothers, and they look exactly alike, but they have they have different fighting styles.
If I ever beat it, I did it with the genie, the game genie.
Oh no,
that's the only way I could have.
So it's the same way with Mike Tyson. Like, if you can learn what their moves are and learn how to avoid, like, you get hit, you're pulverized, you're down.
Yeah, you're done. Yeah.
But if you can learn their moves and learn how to avoid them and get your shots in just right, it's actually, I wouldn't be able to do it today. It's been so long since I've done it. I could probably get halfway through that game before whoever, like, I don't know, Mr. Sandman will probably hand my butt to me. But back in the day, like, I was able to do that. I was able to memorize, all right, these are all of these guys' moves.
Yeah.
This is how you beat everybody. No Game Genie. I actually went through and
look at you.
Beat them all. Oh my gosh. It was such, I remember the first time I did it, I was at home alone. I was like, I can't share this with anybody.
I did that. Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Oh man.
I'm by myself.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for 3 hours. I don't smell great.
I remember the bear guy, the big
bear hugger.
Bear hugger. That's the one.
He was Canadian and he wore bib overalls and nothing else.
You know, oh man, that's
and funny. Then there was the clown.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Who he would juggle and throw balls at you. All these boxers are like cheating. You had who was the old man? He was old and Japanese. He would jump off the ropes and then hit you with a stick. You had a Bruce Lee looking character who would also jump off the ropes and then come at you just like high kick to the face.
This is not right.
This isn't boxing.
All right, so let's talk about Super Metroid.
How much time do you got?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love Super Metroid. So I have since that time when it came out, have played and beaten it probably 5 or 6 times just from playing it again. You know what I mean? Over and over.
It is.
I love that game.
It is a fascinating game. And not just because of how good it is and how it expands um the lore and what you're able to do in that franchise with that character. But to this day, like this is the game, like anytime you hear someone talk about speed runs, this is the game that inspired that.
Oh my gosh.
Because I mean, yeah, the first Metroid, the second Metroid, both of them, if you finish in a certain amount of time, you get a certain ending. That's always been the case with Metroid.
Yeah.
But for some reason, this is the one that people really latched onto. And for decades, you've had people who are looking to beat the system over and over again. You catch them like, oh, I found a new glitch. It's going to shave off 2 seconds of playtime. Like, and that's all it takes. Like, you don't need to like shave off, 10 minutes to make a difference. At this point, they've gotten it down to a science. These people who do these speed runs, it's like the world record is held by someone who beat the previous world record by tenths of a second.
Yeah.
And it's like this, and they legitimately, like, this is a sport. This is like the Olympics of electronic sports. And
so good. Yeah,
from a fan standpoint, it is just it's a beautiful game.
It is.
Gosh, I remember being so impressed when I got the game. I plugged it in, turned it on for the first time, and you're introduced to this like creepy, like there are dead bodies everywhere.
Yeah.
And all you see is like this empty, dark lab with like fog on the ground and the baby Metroid alone in this empty lab with dead bodies all over the place. Then you hit start. The last of the Metroids is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace. It talks to you. This video game talks to you. That's never happened before.
No, it's crazy.
Unless you count the all your base are belong to us.
And then, of course, as you make your way to the planet, you're going back and you get this nostalgic feel, right? From the original.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You're going back.
The first thing you have to do is go back to the beginning.
Yeah. And then you get to Mother Brain, in her little area by the end of it. And you get to see all that again,
even at the beginning. Like, so I remember the beginning of the game. Yes, you're exploring a new part of the surface of the planet,
but you go through that last part of the first game.
Yeah, your first entrance into the actual game where you can play it. You've got to get that ball mechanism all over again, which is back where it was at the beginning.
Yeah,
and then you work your way through, and things have changed. The self-destruct from the first game moved, shifted some things around, but you find yourself right back in that final room where you defeated Mother Brain the first time. And it's incredible. Oh gosh.
And then of course, there's so many elements of the game, but I just fighting Ridley. Oh my gosh. And just trying to win. Trying to win in a pathetic way. You're trying so hard, you're like, what? And then it's like, oh, that's supposed to happen.
I think at first I was a little mad because so you had Kraid and Ridley, who were mini bosses who had returned from the original Metroid. And in the original Metroid, Kraid is this big, and Ridley is maybe this big.
Right.
And doesn't look like a dragon at all. Just looks like, it basically looks like Grimace from McDonald's. and it's like, you get in there in Super Metroid, and Ridley's a big freaking dragon.
Ooh, he's a big dragon.
Kraid's freaking Godzilla. Coming up out of the ground, he's 3 stories tall.
I really loved like those battles. There's so many cool elements of the battles, of ways that you could fight. And in special ways. One of the things I remember was there's an underwater battle. Do you remember the underwater battle?
Is this the thing where you had to like let it catch you, and then you use your grapple beam?
Yeah,
to
and then it
electrocute
would
it.
electrocute it.
Yeah.
Oh, what a concept.
Yeah.
You
Like
know?
you could fight it and it'd take a long time to beat it,
Yeah,
or you let it grab you
I've done
and you
both.
just
But
latch
oh my
on to
god.
the broken electric light at the side of the room, and it's like, all right, this is it, you're done.
Do you remember the room where you had to use the super bomb to advance?
I
And
mean,
like and you
weren't
had to
there
do that a
several of
few
those?
there were yeah, there were several of those. But one where it obliterated the entire board, so that you could actually
Oh
move
yeah.
on. I mean, there was just really cool. It's almost like it redefined things where you can't do that. They're like, well, they just did it. It's just really, really cool. The super jump, I remember that not just the super jump, like where you go and you run fast and you stop and you can shoot up, but when you had to go across the walls, do you remember that? Do you
Yeah.
remember where you had to jump and then spring off the wall to the next wall?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was hard. Once
Yeah.
you master it, you master it.
Yeah. Once you get it, it's not so bad. But like there
That's like using bombs to try to elevate yourself, 30 feet. It's
and
like
there
really
are
hard.
so many like little moves in that game that you can do that I have no idea about. Like I would be like, I'll be watching, like every now and then I'll get a hankering to watch one of those YouTube videos where somebody's doing a speed run, and they will pull out some kind of move like, I don't know, you could do that. Like if you have your charge beam and you're charged up and then you drop into the ball, you'll
Yeah,
drop like
it makes
5
a whole
bombs.
bunch of bombs. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, how did
That's really cool.
I didn't know that as a kid. Who
Well,
learns this?
all the searches for, the tanks, the reserves, all that, there were so many grows. The one thing that um changed for me is recently I would have said that it was a game that I was proficient at Metroid, because of that game. From how many times I played it, I was really good at it. And then I played Metroid Dread on the Switch.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm telling you, that game was really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I beat it, and it was a big accomplishment. But then afterwards, I played Super Metroid, and I was like, no. I mean, I walked through Super Metroid after playing Dread, because Dread was, I mean, you had to be so quick to react to stuff, and you had time. That's one thing that I realized after coming back to Super Metroid, was that you had time to really make your moves and avoid and jump so you wouldn't get hit. Whereas Super Metroid, you better run yourself across the screen because you're going to get this robot after you. I mean, you had to go so quick. So, but all of these games back then, I think, when we think about games today, the reaction time is much faster. You've got to react really quickly. Back then, you had more gaps. And it doesn't mean that all of them were that way. Some of them were just hard, but like you were saying with Super Punch Out, if you could learn the ways, the moves, the timing, then you would be able to handle it. And I
Well,
don't
and
know
really
if my mind could handle it today.
that's how any video game should be.
Sure.
Like there should be certain algorithms that you are able to pick up, especially like these older games where there's only so much technology could do with them.
Right.
And I mean, I'm sure it's harder with your newer games on the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, where you've got so many more functions that the computer inside can do, and the AI can like learn how to play against you.
Yeah.
But with the Super Nintendo or the classic NES, it's like, there's only so much that they could load onto that one little cartridge.
Right.
Um,
So you kind of learned. It really
so
was
yeah,
like an
learning it
algorithm.
was a lot easier to kind of pick up the ins and outs of what makes this game tick.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, such a good game.
Um,
I loved it.
Let's talk about accessories for a minute. Did you ever have the Super Scope? This
I
was
didn't. I never got it.
I think this was the that's what it was called, right?
Yep.
Basically the Super Nintendo equivalent of the NES light gun.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, so the NES, it was almost like a laser pistol, whereas the Super Scope was like a rocket launcher, wasn't it? Like it would rest on your shoulder.
Yeah.
But I never had one.
I never got into it. I don't think I ever wanted to. I was so focused on the other ones. I mean, Were there any other accessories? I mean, I remember Nintendo had a lot of accessories, the Power Glove and the robot and the Power Pad and all that stuff. What other accessories other than Genie?
I
Were
did have Mario Paint. So that came with like a mouse.
Ugh.
I can't say that I ever did anything impressive with it, but I tell you what, there are people who have done some really amazing things with Mario Paint. Go look it up on YouTube. There are like people who have come up with incredible pictures or animation, even music. Like you could create music on that thing, and it's really impressive. I'm pretty sure. Do you know when I say Homestar Runner? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, that is a shame. Oh,
What am
Homestar
I missing?
Runner was for me a big thing in college. So, and anyone out there who is listening to this or watching and you know what Homestar Runner is, dude, leave us some kind of memory of Homestar Runner or Strong Bad because Landon, you need to look up Homestar Runner. It is hilarious.
Homestar
But
Runner.
by the time I was in, by the time I was introduced to Homestar and all those characters, it's basically an internet cartoon.
Okay.
Um, it's a lot of really stupid but funny kind of things.
Homestar Runner. I'm going to write that down.
Homestar, one word, runner.
Right.
So
So
that actually, like I said, by the time I was introduced to it, it was like a like flash animation on the internet. But they started out, I'm pretty sure when they were doing stuff originally, they were creating their animations on Mario Paint. So that's how they started.
That's cool.
The only other accessory that comes to mind is the Super Game Boy adapter, which would plug in just like a cartridge, and then you
Yeah.
put the Game Boy game
Yeah,
inside it.
I had that. I had that.
Yeah, I
I
had
had
one of those. They had some games that were specifically made for the Game Boy,
Yeah.
Or Super Game Boy, so that, like it would have like a special border around the screen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it would have
I
special
remember it
colors. Donkey
being a
Kong
little
was
lame.
one of
Yeah.
those, but
Yeah.
it was neat to be able to play your Game Boy games on
On
a
the
bigger
TV.
screen than
Right.
2.5 inches.
That's true. Although I will say, hey, and speaking of, I meant to mention this. So look what I got here.
Does it work?
It works.
Nice.
It does. So Daphne's my wife's mom, she had one and she's since passed away, but she had one. And
Got Tetris in there?
yeah, Tetris.
Yeah, you do.
It's the only game. I really need to go to like a retro store and get more. But I took the batteries out to make sure that,
Yeah, you don't want the corrode in there.
right. So, so
That's
cool.
awesome.
So one other thing I wanted to ask you about too was if you remembered playing Link to the Past.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Do you remember how when you start off on that game and you go into the castle and it's like that it became such an epic tale? I mean, it took Zelda. I mean, the first one is great, of course. It'll always be great. Legend of Zelda is a great game. But this game it took it to a new level.
This
It
one,
took
yeah.
elements of
Legend
like Final Fantasy. It made it in its own game.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Link to the Past felt like it took the original Legend of Zelda and upgraded it.
Oh, in such a great way.
So yeah,
that
it
game.
was really that was one that gosh, I know the first time I played through it, it probably took me weeks, maybe months to play all the way through it, to learn all of the secrets and
yeah. Well, and of course I had the guide.
Things.
Did you have the guide, the Nintendo Power Guide?
No.
I had the guide. The boards, the maps.
Like whatever, all I had was
out.
whatever would have come in, like if there was an article for it in one of the Nintendo Power issues, but I never had a strategy guide or anything for that one.
Some people are anti-strategy guide, I mean,
oh, I'm not.
I can appreciate that for the people who want to really find stuff. I loved the strategy guides of games when I was growing up because of being able to look and see more about the characters, the bestiary, being able to see the maps and of course I would look on it to see how to defeat and look for hidden treasures and stuff. But I liked having a resource to reference and look. I loved having those.
See, my thing is, so my preference is to play through a game the first time and try to beat it on my own. And then the second time I play it, that's when I use the strategy guide so I can
Yeah.
find all the things that I missed the first time.
Yeah.
It's like watching Knives Out and then going back and watching it again and being like, oh, I didn't
Oh,
see
yeah.
that the first time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I think at this point there's certain games that I wouldn't do it. I mean, I don't really do strategy guides, but I won't look online for something like an Assassin's Creed or something because I really don't need to. I'll just explore and find and do things like that. Or even Spider-Man, I just go and find. But back then I loved doing that. I was trying to think. There were some other notable things that kind of came out. There was NBA Jam. So you remember
He's
playing
on fire.
He's on fire. Yeah, you play it in the arcade. You could play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. That was a good game. I really liked that game. I played that a lot. I don't know if I liked it more than two. I really liked two, but I think I liked Turtles in Time.
I think Turtles in Time was better, but
Yeah,
again, for
yeah,
me, I think that's about the graphics again and
yeah.
the actual, like, you can do more with
Do
your fighting moves and
you remember
throw
bury my
foot
shell
at
at
the
wounded
screen.
knee? Do you remember the little things that they would say at the beginning of each one?
Yeah,
Bury my shell at wounded knee or something like that.
yeah, those were really good.
They were hard too. They were, I mean, they were there were some elements as you got to the end that were pretty rough. Crate or Krang or whatever.
Krang.
Krang.
Yeah.
Invincible. Yeah.
Stupid brain.
Let's see. Donkey Kong Country came out. There's a lot of Donkey Kong Country lovers.
Donkey Kong Country had a trilogy.
Yep, they had Diddy and well, I think the second one is lauded to be the favorite by most, if I recall.
I still like the first one the best,
Yeah.
but
I
that's just
didn't
me.
really get into it. I think if I was to choose between of a game like that where you're going fast across the board and hopping around, I'm gonna go for Sonic. I just don't really, I didn't really never, I never got, but I had friends who loved Donkey Kong Country and all of them, but I never really got into it.
Nah, I only had the first one. I think I played the second one, and then I didn't hear too many good things about the third one. I thought it sounded kind of lame, so I never put my hands on it. But
Did you ever play Chrono Trigger?
yes,
So I
great game.
never played that, but I was looking online earlier, and it is like notably one of the favorite SNES games.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the best. I would say probably. I would say that the consensus is that it's one of the best JRPGs out there, outside of the Final Fantasy franchise,
Yeah.
which is
Oh, it's
crazy because
cool.
Square made it too. Like it was made by the same people who make Final Fantasy. But it's so fascinating because there's so many different ways that game can turn out because you're time traveling back and forth throughout the game. And so depending on what decisions you make in certain time frames can affect how things turn out later in the game.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
there's games like that now, but that's seems pretty groundbreaking for back then.
Yeah. It's a really great game.
Huh, that's great. Well, maybe I'll have to try it. I wonder if they have it on I wonder if they have it up there on the Switch, the classics. I haven't looked through that.
I'm not sure.
And then do you remember the games that Disney came out with, like Lion King and Aladdin?
I try to forget those.
I liked Aladdin. I liked Aladdin a lot.
They
I played that a
so
lot.
those were games that were infamous for being so difficult, not because they wanted to give us a challenge, but because they didn't want us to rent those games and beat them in a weekend. They
That was
wanted
part
us
of
to buy them
yeah.
and try to figure out how to beat them over a long period of time.
Well, this was that period of time when Blockbuster and all that was pretty strong too. The ability to rent video games and go home and play them and blitz them and turn them back in rather
Yeah.
than buying it. I can see that. I can see why they would purposefully react that way.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
there were a number of game makers that did that, number of companies that did that. But the Lion King in particular is one of those that they point to, that they made it hard on purpose just so
I
you
never
wouldn't be
liked
able to
that
beat
one.
it in a weekend.
Yeah, I didn't really like that one. Any other thoughts you have on it? On the SNES and its glory?
I'm just curious
Other than
about
our
your top
top
10.
10? All right, so how are we going to do it? You want to start from high to low, or what do you want to do?
Low to high. Let's start with number 10 and then move up.
All right, all right. All right, here we go. Number 10 for me was Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I loved that game.
I believe that's actually Super Street Fighter 2
Yeah,
Turbo.
yeah, yeah. I played that game so much. I would go to my grandmother's in Tennessee and hook up that console, that coaxial, and I would play that game until I would finally beat M. Bison. Whew.
That almost made my list. I would call that an honorable mention on mine.
Yeah. Number 9. Do you want to do back and forth? Or you want me to roll through my whole list?
I'll just go through your whole list.
All right. Number 9 would be Mega Man X or 10. I really
Not 10.
enjoyed. Is it not 10?
No, it's Mega Man X. Mega Man 10 is a different game.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So Mega Man X, that was a lot of fun. It was hard. It was hard, but you had to be able to use your different guns that you got appropriately against the villains. But it was a good game. It's hard. Number 8, Final Fantasy 2, actually. A lot of people had mentioned theirs was 6, which I guess is 3 technically. But I enjoyed Final Fantasy 2 just because it was my first time playing it on the TV. I never played it on the Nintendo. I only played the version that was on the Game Boy. And this was my first one that I had that I actually played on the TV. So that was fun. Kind of my introduction. Number 7, Turtles in Time. For all of the many times that I played that with my friends that would come over, including you, I believe. Then number 6.
But I had to be player 2, didn't I?
Yeah, you had to play player 2. Yeah, I'm sorry. Just still there, huh? It's always going to be there. I apologize. I publicly apologize.
It's okay.
It's not okay. All right. So then number 6, Super Punch Out. Number 5, Star Fox. Number 4, Super Mario World. Number 3, Super Mario Kart. Number 2, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. And of course, number 1, Super Metroid.
We do have a lot of overlap in our top 10, just in different places. In like it's like I could take your list and like shuffle it, and it would
do that.
a lot of
some of
them
these
would be the
were
same ones.
on the fence for me. I mean, it was hard to order them. I reordered it like 3 times. I couldn't decide.
I went through and picked 10, and then I was like, oh wait, I forgot about this one. Oh wait, I forgot about this one. How could I forget that?
Right.
And so like I had to take a couple off. Like originally I had Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo on there, but I had to remove it to make room for something else. I did have Spider-Man Venom Maximum Carnage on there.
Okay.
Had to move it off of there. Not that that's a great game. It was just so much fun to be able to choose back and forth to play Spider-Man and play Venom.
Yeah, one of my friends had that game, and I enjoyed. Probably Justin. I remember playing it. That was.
It had a red cartridge, man. That's how you knew it was serious.
You're like, oh, this breaks all the rules.
That's right.
Let's hear it, man.
All right, my top 10, starting with Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars.
Fair enough.
I really liked that one. I never beat it though.
Yeah.
I never had the patience to get all the way through it. Number 9 is Super Mario Kart. Number 8, Mega Man X.
Yeah.
Number 7, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3.
Okay, you went to Mortal Kombat,
which was definitely improvement on Mortal Kombat 3, because originally when Mortal Kombat 3 came out, they omitted Scorpion.
which you can't omit.
He wasn't in the game. What are you doing?
Get over here.
Number 6, Donkey Kong Country. Number 5, Super Punch Out. Number 4, Final Fantasy 2.
You did 2 as well.
Yeah. Same reason as well, not the exact same reason. But this is Final Fantasy 2 is the one that I played more. I don't think I ever played Final Fantasy 3 until years later when it was re-released.
Yeah.
So this one, I would say that Final Fantasy 3 is the superior game, but this is my favorite.
Yeah.
So again, this is when we say our top 10, these are our 10 favorite SNES games, not necessarily the ones that should be
the ones that
the best.
Right. If you did a poll, people would have different. Yeah.
Right. I mean, except for Super Metroid being number 1, that is obviously the best game ever made.
Always.
Number 3, I got Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Number 2, Super Mario World. And I put that so high just because of how groundbreaking I thought that was.
Yeah.
With just so many different things you could do in that game, and just the diversity of the levels and the way that the map would change every time you did something different. It was just a neat concept. And the number 1, of course, Super Metroid, because of course it's the best game ever made. I don't think there's a whole lot of debates to that.
Let me ask you this. If you were to shuffle all of the Nintendo and Super Nintendo together, would Super Metroid still be at the top of that list?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
Super Metroid for me is my favorite game of all time. It doesn't matter what console we're talking about. Doesn't matter what generation of consoles we're talking about. To me, Super Metroid is... it just ranks up there.
Such a great game
of what a video game should be. It's challenging, but at the same time, it's fun. There you can choose your own adventure, if you will.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to follow a linear path with Super Metroid. Now, there's a way you can. I mean, there are right and wrong ways. And there's certain things you have to get before you can reach a certain area.
I appreciate those limitations too, because it wasn't like you were just blocked by a wall. You were blocked by the fact that you can go in that room, you'll die.
Right. Yeah,
but you can go. And that was a cool element.
But and again, the fact that they made it that way, that you didn't have to follow a certain path to succeed, is what has made it such a legendary game for speedrunners, because they don't have to go in a certain order to get certain things. They can throw everything off, and I'm going to go beat Fantoon before I go after Kraid or whatever. They decide different, I'm going to go on a different path so that it'll be faster this way. And that's how, you've got these competitors who shave tenths of seconds off of their playtime. It's just, it's such
incredible. A great game. I don't know. It's now you say that of all time. I don't know. I mean, I think it is.
Now, I'm not saying they haven't improved, graphics have gotten better with
no. I know what you mean, though, but just the general love for it. But I think about games like GoldenEye and things like that too. There's just, I do think that there's a good handful of games. When we do all these, finally, we'll have to come back together and do an all-time, top 10. That'll be fun to do. But SNES, I think we covered it.
You want some trivia?
Oh, you got trivia?
Of course. I mean, who am I?
I love it.
Oh, wait, that's not one of the trivia questions. All right, first question. Final Fantasy 4 and 6 were marketed as what games for the North American Super Nintendo?
4 and 6 were 1 and 3, 2 and
No,
3,
2 and 3.
2 and 3. Sorry. Yeah.
The official follow-up to Super Mario World was actually a prequel titled what?
Lost World,
No,
Lost Levels.
no.
The follow-up to Mario World
Yep.
was a prequel.
Uh-huh.
Was that the RPG thing you said?
Nope.
Dang, I don't know.
Yoshi's Island.
Yoshi's Island is a prequel. Because he's
Yeah, that's the one where you've got Baby Mario riding the back of the different Yoshis, and every time he falls off, he cries, and it's the most annoying sound in the world. That's why that game did not make it to my top 10 because it's so obnoxious.
I hated that game.
It was fun. It was an interesting, like, different way of playing. Like, I liked playing as Yoshi and like you're throwing eggs and doing stuff, but
yeah, for like 5 seconds.
But every time Mario fell off the back, it was just like, I'm done. This is awful. All right. What is the Japanese version of the Super Nintendo called? That might be a little racist.
It's not?
Absolutely not. We're going to have to cut that out.
No, you can't cut it out. People make fun of my maybe in a redneck roots all the time.
No. We're gonna get canceled by our 3 viewers. It's got an English name. Like you can say it in English.
Doesn't that sound wrong? I mean, how dare they? Oh no.
Yeah, right. That's cultural appropriation.
Oh man, I couldn't tell you. What do you got?
The Super
Mario's
Famicom.
The Super what?
Famicom.
Famicom?
Famicom.
Famicom. Sorry.
Famicom.
And what does Famicom mean?
Because the original NES was the Famicom over there, and it's short for Family Computer.
Well, that makes sense, I suppose.
It does.
The Super Famicom.
The Super Famicom.
Gee,
how many games came included on the Super Mario All-Stars cartridge?
4.
That is exactly right.
It had the first one, the second one, the third one, and then the Lost Levels.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. True or false? This one's going to stump you, I think.
I got a 50-50 chance.
You got a 50-50 chance, but I think you're going to get it wrong. Actually, I don't know. You might get it right. Donkey Kong is a playable character in the original Super Mario Kart.
False.
That is correct. Donkey
Not
Kong
until
Jr. is a playable character.
Not until the 64 could you play as Donkey Kong.
That is correct. Yeah, Donkey Kong didn't make his
Mario
Kart
64
debut until Mario Kart 64. That's right. But in the original, Donkey Kong Jr. was the playable character, which is crazy because I'm pretty sure that's the last time we see Donkey Kong Jr. ever.
Couldn't make it
because he didn't show up in Donkey Kong Country. I was going to ask you this. I was going to say, so at the beginning of Donkey Kong Country, where you've got Cranky Kong, the old
man, yep,
playing the original Donkey Kong theme song. Who is Cranky Kong originally?
It's Cranky Kong, the original Donkey Kong from the original game, right?
Yeah, Cranky Kong is meant to be the original Donkey Kong from the 80s arcade game.
Yeah.
And the Donkey Kong that we know is his grandson, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe the Donkey Kong we know is Donkey Kong Jr. and he's just grown up.
Yeah, that's how that happened. So technically Donkey Kong is in the game.
That's right. So are Donkey Kong and Mario friends now? Because they started out as enemies.
It seems they must have worked something out. You know what I mean? I mean, I think Daisy still doesn't like him, so or Peach. I'm sorry, not Daisy, Peach.
Neither one of them were actually part of Donkey Kong.
Just
Pauline.
What?
Pauline was the damsel in distress in Donkey Kong.
Pauline.
Pauline.
It's funny though. It makes you think about like King Kong, and how her being up there, and all that. It's just like a King Kong vibe.
Nintendo got sued.
Oh, really?
Over the name Kong.
MGM? Was it MGM back then?
Not MGM. I can't remember who sued.
Pre-Universal. It's
but it was whoever owned the rights to King Kong at the time that Donkey Kong came out tried to sue Nintendo, and they lost. Nintendo won that lawsuit.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, they wouldn't still be calling it Donkey Kong if they had lost that.
No.
But
it'd be Donkey Ape.
Yeah. Ape, giant ape stealing person.
Donkey Ape country,
coming to the Super Nintendo. That just doesn't
roll
off the tongue very well.
Donkey Ape sounds like an insult.
All right. Any other Super Nintendo thoughts before we wrap this whole thing up?
Oh, I really love how you can play games on the Switch. That's fun, especially Super Metroid. So anybody who has a Nintendo Switch, you have the ability to get the games on there on the Super Nintendo console version.
Well, did you ever get your hands on the SNES Mini?
I didn't. I had the Nintendo Mini, and that had all of those extra games on it, so I could play Contra. I was one of those that went to the mall and saw them do that, and then I grabbed that thing. Still need to get Konami on board. Start playing nice, to get Contra on the Switch, but not yet.
You can get Castlevania, so they're playing along with some of them.
But not Contra. What's the deal?
Super C's on there, isn't it?
Super C's on there. Yeah. But not Contra. Need Contra.
There's a lot of people who argue that Super C is the superior game.
Well, there's a lot of stupid people out there.
Oh, wow. That is... You are alienating a lot of people today.
I've done a lot of things here. First of all, I wasn't... the Japanese thing was a compliment. I appreciate the sound.
Don't think that's how that works. I'm gonna cut you off before you get yourself into you're just shoving your foot all the way down your mouth.
It's like I'm channeling my mother, who just says whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You're still young. All right, utilize your brain. Think before you speak. All right, next week, as promised, we are getting back into the visual stuff with TV, not movies. Next week we are doing our retrospective of the first season of Hot D, House of the Dragon. Hot D. That's so funny. House of the Dragon, that is what we're going to be talking about next week. So if you want to catch up with us, if you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, it's 10 episodes from the first season.
Yep.
I'm hopefully I'm gonna have time to sit down and rewatch those 10 episodes just so it'll be fresh in my mind. So we
because I watch them week by week. I think I really want to be able to watch them all together.
Yeah.
So I can get the feel and vibe. There were some episodes that were great and some episodes that were a little slow, and I think just doing it together will help to kind of get some great flow and continuity.
Yeah.
For our talk.
All right. Well, that is it for us this week. Remember, if you want to support us here at the Show, the best way you can do that is by, first of all, watching or listening to the show like you're doing now. We appreciate that. We appreciate if you would drop us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple, leave us a review. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us that little thumbs up, like, subscribe, hit the little bell icon, all those fun things.
Yeah, share us, please. And we're on Facebook and all of the different ones there. Please share us with your friends, and we'd love to hear your thoughts as well. We love comments. Just any thoughts that you have, your favorite, your top 10 of the games that you have. any prelim questions or interests or thoughts that you have about our upcoming episode, like the House of Dragons, feel free to drop
Hot
those
D.
questions.
Hot
What?
D. Hot D.
Hot D.
If you
Sorry.
have any questions about Hot D,
Yeah.
let us know.
Feel free to lay those out there, and we'll talk about them. So
yeah, we definitely want to hear from
fandom.
you. Be part of our conversation, because when it's just the two of us, I mean, we're having a good time. I was going to say it's boring, but it's not. We're having a great time. But you make it better. So join in. Anything else, Landon, before we sign off?
No.
All right. Well, we wish you a great whatever it is, wherever you are.
Bye-bye.